Hey, I'm John from White Cloud Workshop, and today I'm going to make this Pohutukawa basket weave bowl. What I've got here is a wet turned Pohutukawa blank. So I turned this about maybe 6-8 months ago, and while I was turning it I found some pretty severe deep cracks in there. Sort of all along as well. It's a bad one. So I just left it to dry, and now that it's dry I think I've got a bit of a plan to hide those cracks. So let's see how we go. First I'm going to create a small spigot on the inside. Now I can remount the bowl and shape the outside easier. Pohutukawa is a native New Zealand species called New Zealand's Christmas tree, as it produces a brilliant display of red flowers at Christmas time. It's also renowned for its ability to survive perched on rocky, steep cliffs. Here I'm just going to tidy up the spigot, recenter it since it's warped a bit while drying. So you can see the cracks are still very highly visible. So this is the highest crack, so what I'm going to do here is make a line here, and then we're going to leave the top, and then the bottom we're going to cover with the basket weave pattern. I cut a few grooves with the skew to make a narrow band at the top. I cut a small recess at the top to make the band and the basket weave pattern stand out a bit. I fill in the cracks with a mixture of sawdust and PVA glue. With the outside turning done, I remount to finish the inside. Yeah, so it looks like some pretty bad cracks now appearing on the inside. Some of them are the ones from the outside, but this fresh crack, so just a piece of wood that hasn't dried very well. I use a bit of CA glue to stabilise in and around the cracks, to prevent them from getting worse. Accelerator is sprayed on to set the glue straight away. There's nothing I can do to hide the cracks inside, so what I've decided to do is make a feature of them and fill them in with some copper powder. This will be a neat little surprise for those who take a close look inside the bowl. Just checking the wall thickness is even. I apply a bit of mineral oil to help with sanding and prevent overheating. So I'm going to fill these cracks with some copper powder, but before I do that I'm going to just seal off the bowl with some sanding sealer, just so that the super glue doesn't sort of stain the timber as much. Once the sanding sealer has dried, I can start to fill in the cracks with copper powder, pushing down to compress it. Thin CA glue is then poured on top to glue it in place. After a quick sand, I apply the first coat of Danish oil. Once the oil goes on, the grain really pops. I'm just going to mount the bowl on this faceplate so I can remove the spigot and tidy up the bottom. My original plan was to carve some feet on the bottom, but I screwed up and got my measurements wrong, so I'm just going to put a normal foot on the bottom instead. I'll come back to remove that little nub, just because I want to get started on the long pyrography process. I mask off the bowl so I can do some pyrography on this narrow band. After that I can do the basket weave pattern on the lower part. I'm going to do a chevron type pattern on this thin band, just to make it a bit different from the basket weave pattern. I go back here and do the bottom half. I cover the band up and start the pattern on the bottom half. Pohutukawa is quite a dense wood, so all this pyrography took a long time. Here I take a break from the pyrography to remove the last little bit at the bottom and tidy it up. I'm just going to add a little bit of texture on the bottom with the Timberly Textura tool, just as a little surprise when you turn the bowl over. And I just use a point tool to border the texturing. Finishing up the basket weave pattern. I work in a couple of coats of Danish oil in the bottom as well. I've applied 3 coats of Danish oil which is dried. Now I'm going to start buffing with the Beal buff system. I start by loading the buffing wheel with Tripoli wax. After buffing, I mask off the piece and spray a couple of coats of matte black over the pyrography. Now I dry brush a bit of gold paint over the thin band. This will help break up the darkness of the wood and the pyrography and just give it a bit of balance. A few coats of spray lacquer and I'm all done. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and I'll see you for the next one.